Okay, I'm gonna set you up for your review today. You have your test tomorrow, and then you're gonna spend part of the class with me after you work on some of this on the computer. Okay, so we're starting with distribution, and this is a special problem. We've done this before, but not very many times. I want you to notice that there's parentheses, but the 3 is not smushed against the parentheses. What is actually smushed is the negative. So the negative is what's being distributed. So I'm going to draw my arrows. That means I keep my 3, and then I have a negative times a 4x, and a negative times a negative 5, okay, equals negative 8. I'm going to draw my river. I have a 3, negative times 4x. So I can just do that in my calculator. Negative times 4, right? I can't type the x. And I get negative 4. Negative 4x. Some of you may know that. Negative times that positive is going to give you a negative. Negative times negative 5. A negative times a negative gives you a positive. But if you're not sure, you can do negative times negative 5. It gives you positive 5. We have to actually write that plus sign equals negative 8. Okay, now our variables over here, but before we can solve this, it would be helpful to combine like terms. We have 3 and positive 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, so I have negative 4x plus 8 equals negative 8. All right, I have to use addition and subtraction to make a 0 first. Over here, before I can touch this, I have a positive 8. I'm going to subtract 8 to make a 0. Remember, 8 minus 8 is 0, and I have to do it to both sides. Over here, negative 8 minus 8, that's what I have. I get negative 16. Negative 4x equals negative 16. Now, I'm using multiplication and division to get a 1. Negative 4 and x are being multiplied. To undo that, I have to divide. I'm pretty sure I divide by negative 4. I'm going to check that. Yes, that gives me positive 1. So I get 1x equals negative 16 divided by negative 4 is positive 4. My solution is 4. You can call this is the solution set. Okay, and it makes the equation true. I want to make sure that you have that down. So make sure you have that. You might actually see it in parentheses like this as an answer choice. Okay, over here you're looking again, and notice 5 is not smushed, the negative is. So we have 5, we have a negative times a negative 2x, and then we have a negative times a 4 equals negative 3. You are going to solve that from here. I want you to pause the video and solve that, and then when you start it again, we're going to jump to a different part of the review. Okay, on the back we have dealing with fractions. So tomorrow I do not want you to be scared of fractions. We're just going to turn them into decimals, so write that down. Okay, the way to do that is just type it in your calculator. So it's 3 divided by 5. 3 divided by 5 is 0.6. So I'm going to write 0.6 so I don't mess up. Plus 10 equals, now I'm going to do 86 divided by 5. That gives me 17.2. To me, that looks way easier to deal with. I'm going to use addition and subtraction to make a 0. I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides. That gives me a 0, so I get 0.6x equals 17.2 minus 10 is 7.2. Okay, next thing I do, I know these are smushed by multiplication. I'm going to undo it by dividing, right? Multiplication and division to get a 1. So I get 1x equals 7.2 divided by 0.6 is 12. 1x equals 12. So 12 is part of the solution set. You might see it in brackets like that. Okay, you are going to go ahead and do this one. I want you to notice 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. So if you're running out of time, we will come back to this later and we're going to move to the next one so you have the notes. equations with variables on both sides. So whenever this happens, for example here, first we have to get rid of one of the variables. And the only way to do this is by addition or subtraction. Okay, right? We're trying to make a 0. So go over here. I usually tell you guys to get rid of this one. So we have 3x over here. It's positive. The only way to get rid of it is to subtract 3x. And do it to both sides. I have to use the subtraction property of equality. Positive 3x minus 3x is 0, so I have negative 14 equals 4x minus 3x is 1x minus 26. Okay, I'm going to add 26 to both sides. I'm using the addition property of equality. I get 1x equals negative 14 plus 26. I get 12. Okay, so the solution set would be 12, and we are done. Okay, so that's what I want you to remember. You have to get rid of a variable first. Let's go ahead and take some notes on another section. I want you to flip to inequalities. We learned this on Friday. When we divide or multiply by a negative, we flip the inequality, okay? So for example, I'm going to go down to number 14. I'm going to do this one for you. So we draw the river like normal, and we notice we have variables on both sides. So just like before, I have to get rid of one of them. This is a positive 8x, so I'm going to subtract 8x to get 0. Okay, subtracting is not dividing or multiplying, so you do not need to worry. 2x minus 8x is negative 6x minus 2. We still have less than or equal to 4. Okay, now I use addition and subtraction to make a 0. I'm going to add 2 to both sides because I know that negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 6x is less than or equal to 6. And now here's my variable. I need to get a 1, so I'm going to divide by a negative 6. But I'm dividing by a negative, so I have to flip the inequality. That becomes 1x. Instead of less than or equal to, it's greater than or equal to. 6 divided by negative 6 is negative 1. All right, we're going to take one last note. Actually, we're not. It says more distribution. You guys know how to do this. So whenever you've done taking notes, if I've not called you over yet, you're going to work somewhere in the packet on something that I have shown you that you feel confident about, and then you will come to me and we will get started.